Welcome to our deep dive into the surprising world of selling. You know, listener sent in Dan Pink's To Sell is Human, and it's quite a challenge to pull out all the insights, but we're ready. So get ready to discover how selling has, well, transformed, I guess, in this digital age. And we'll figure out how to use, all these ideas to kind of move people effectively, ethically, and maybe even make the world a bit better along the way.
Yeah, it's not just like closing deals anymore, is it? It's more about, moving people, influencing decisions, maybe shaping how people think about things. And in a world where everyone's just bombarded with information constantly, the ability to sell your ideas or your vision, heck, even just yourself, I mean, that's more important than ever.
I'm intrigued. So where do we begin with this idea of selling in our modern world?
Well, Pink kind of starts off challenging that traditional image of a salesperson, that pushy, fast-talking stereotype. He says that these days we're all in sales, whether we know it or not.
So it's not just about fancy pitches and closing deals then.
Exactly. It's way more than that. It's like getting your kids to do their homework without a total meltdown, or convincing your boss to finally give you that raise, or even just, talking your friends into trying that restaurant you love.
I see what you mean. We're always trying to influence people, get them to see things our way,
Yeah.
to get them to do something.
Exactly. And that's where Pink's ideas get really helpful. He lays out these three qualities essential for anyone trying to, move others: attunement, buoyancy, and clarity.
Right. This sounds interesting. So attunement, what is that all about? What does Pink mean by that?
Well, attunement is all about understanding where the other person is coming from. It's like stepping into their shoes and seeing the world through their eyes. It's less about, smooth talking, more about listening. Really listening. What do you think about that?
It makes total sense to me. I mean, have you ever tried convincing someone of something when they weren't listening or didn't care about your perspective at all? It's like talking to a wall.
Right. And Pink gives this great example, the story of Norman Hall, the last Fuller Brush salesman in San Francisco. Have you heard of him?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like this legendary door-to-door salesman who just connected with
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah, he's like a master class in attunement. Pink talks about how Hall never used high-pressure tactics or some canned sales pitch. He'd spend time observing, listening to their needs, and then he'd tailor his approach. There's this one story where Hall's trying to sell brushes to this woman and her daughter, and he sees the little girl struggling with her shoelaces.
Okay, now I'm curious. What'd he do?
So instead of jumping right into his pitch, he just gets down on his knees and helps the girl tie her shoes. It's this simple act of kindness, and
Hmm.
it totally disarms the mom, creates this real connection. And he makes the sale not by being pushy, but by showing he cares.
Wow, that's powerful. Just a small gesture, but so much attunement, right? It's building rapport before even mentioning the sale.
Absolutely. And Pink gives us some other tactics for boosting your attunement. He talks about strategic mimicry, subtly mirroring the other person's body language, how they talk, things like that.
Isn't that kind of manipulative?
Yeah.
I'd be terrible at that. I'd probably look like a bad mime or something.
It's not about copying every little move, but more about finding a rhythm with the person. Like a dance, when you're in sync, the conversation just flows. But yeah, it takes practice.
All right, so maybe I need to work on my subtle mirroring before my next presentation. What else does Pink suggest?
Well, he also highlights this idea of finding what he calls uncommon commonalities. It's about discovering those little shared interests or experiences, things that break down walls and build rapport. It could be anything, like liking the same band or even growing up in the same town. These tiny connections, they make a big difference.
Yeah, it's like finding a hidden connection. You seem totally different on the surface, but then you find that thread that links you. Those moments are kind of magical.
They really are. And Pink actually shares this trick that Jeff Bezos uses to stay focused on the customer.
Okay, I got to hear this. What does Bezos do?
So in big meetings at Amazon, Bezos always keeps an empty chair at the table. It represents the customer.
Wow, I love that. It's like giving the most important person a voice, even if they're not there. It forces you to think outside of yourself and think about what matters to them.
Exactly. And that's attunement in a nutshell. Understanding and really putting their needs first.
This is all great, but let's be honest, even with perfect attunement, you're not going to win every sale, are you? Rejection is just part of the game. So how do we handle that? How do we stay resilient even when we hear no all the time?
That's where Pink's idea of buoyancy comes in, and it's just as important as attunement. He says it's not just about being positive, it's about having the right kind of positivity, the kind that helps you bounce back and keep going.
Okay, I feel like this is where things get really interesting. Tell me more about this buoyancy thing. How do we, get more of it?
Pink breaks buoyancy down into three parts: before, during, and after. So it's how you prep for a challenge, how you handle it when it's happening, and then how you process it afterwards.
All right, let's break that down. What's the before all about? Is all those pep talks and positive affirmations.
Actually, Pink suggests ditching those "I am the greatest" affirmations. He says they can be too general and sometimes set you up for unrealistic expectations. Instead, he talks about interrogative self-talk.
Interrogative self-talk. I've never heard of that. What is it?
So instead of saying, like, "I'm going to crush this presentation," you ask yourself, "Can I crush this presentation?" Sounds subtle, but research says framing it as a question is actually more effective.
So it's like you're making your brain come up with a plan instead of just assuming you'll succeed.
Right. And you know who's great at this? Bob the Builder.
Wait, Bob the Builder, the cartoon guy, what does he have to do with sales?
Think about his line, "Can we fix it?" It's not a statement, it's an invitation to problem solve, to assess, and come up with a plan.
Wow, never thought about it like that. Who knew a kid's show character had the key to sales success?
It's all about the mindset. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful.
I'm seeing how this interrogative self-talk could be useful. You're actively engaging your brain instead of just hoping for the best. Okay, so that's before. What about during that buoyancy phase? How do we stay resilient right when things get tough or you face rejection?
That's where positivity comes in. But Pink adds a twist to the whole think positive idea. He talks about this thing called the ideal positivity ratio.
Okay, you got to explain that. What's this ratio all about?
Pink talks about research by Barbara Fredrickson, who found that people do best when they experience roughly 3 positive emotions for every 1 negative one.
So it's not about ignoring the bad stuff. It's about finding balance.
Exactly. Negative emotions are still important. They can warn us about problems, push us to change, even help us connect with people. But when negativity takes over, you get stress, burnout, and you just don't perform as well. So even if you're dealing with negativity from others, it's about keeping yourself positive, but not in a fake or unrealistic way.
Exactly. You need that healthy balance. And get this, Fredrickson actually has a website, positivityratio.com, where you can track your own ratio. We should share that with the listeners.
Absolutely, they'd love that.
Hmm.
Okay, before and during are covered. What about after? How do we process rejection without losing our buoyancy?
This is where Pink talks about explanatory style. It's how we explain bad stuff to ourselves. Do we see it as personal failure or as a temporary setback?
It's all about how we frame those no's in our minds.
Exactly. Pink talks about the work of Martin Seligman, this pioneer in positive psychology. Seligman found that people with an optimistic explanatory style, meaning they see rejection as temporary and caused by things outside of themselves, they tend to be more successful and resilient.
So instead of thinking, "I'm a terrible salesperson, I'll never close a deal," it's more like, "Okay, this pitch didn't work with this client, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure." Exactly. It's recognizing that setbacks are often temporary, tied to a specific situation, and often caused by things outside your control. And with this more optimistic view, you don't get bogged down and you stay motivated.
It reminds me of the growth mindset idea, that our abilities aren't fixed, we can grow and learn.
That's a great connection. It's seeing challenges as opportunities instead of roadblocks.
Okay, so we've got attunement and buoyancy, both crucial in this new world of selling.
Yeah.
But there's one more piece, right? Clarity. What does Pink mean by that? And how does it fit in?
Clarity is about more than just communicating clearly. It's helping others see things in a new way, reframing problems, even uncovering issues they didn't realize they had.
Wait, are you saying persuasion isn't about having all the answers, but about finding the right questions?
You're getting it. Pink says that now, with so much information everywhere, problem solving isn't enough. The real skill is problem finding. And to show this, he tells this great story about Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, a researcher who studied art students at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
Okay, tell me more about this study.
So Csikszentmihalyi split the art students into 2 groups: problem solvers and problem finders. The problem solvers were given a specific task and told to do it perfectly. The problem finders, they were encouraged to explore and come up with their own problems before solving them.
I bet the problem finders did better.
You got it. They ended up being more successful artists because they learned to see beyond the obvious, to challenge assumptions, and frame problems in new ways.
So how does that apply to selling?
In the past, salespeople had all the information. But now, buyers can find anything online. They can research, compare prices, read reviews, all that. So the best salespeople aren't just giving information anymore. They're helping buyers see their needs in new ways.
They're showing them problems they didn't even know they had. Right.
Exactly. And one of the most powerful tools for this is, well, a really simple question. It's the question that Pink says all great problem finders use.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. What's the question?
That's where we'll have to stop for now.
Okay, you can't leave me hanging like that.
Yeah.
What is this magical question that uncovers these hidden problems and helps us, well, move people?
The question is, compared to what?
Compared to what? It does sound pretty simple. But yeah, I can already see how it could be powerful if you used it the right way.
It's all about framing perspective, really. When we make decisions, or even just think about our options, we're always comparing, even if we don't realize it. This question makes us do those comparisons out loud, consciously.
So it's like shining a light on all those hidden biases we have, the things that influence our choices.
Exactly. Like, say you're thinking of getting a new phone. The salesperson is probably going to hype it up, talking about the camera, the processor, the design. But when you ask compared to what, it changes things.
Compared to what? Like compared to my old phone or other phones at that price, or maybe that other one I was looking at.
Exactly. It makes you think about the value, right? Is the camera really that much better than your current phone? Do you need a super fast processor? Compared to what puts you in control, you're not just accepting their sales pitch, you're setting your own terms.
You're putting things into perspective, making sure you see all the options and make a good decision.
Right. And this question isn't just for buying stuff. Think about salary negotiation. Instead of just saying yes to their first offer, you ask, compared to what? Compared to what others with my experience make? Compared to my colleagues? Or even pitching an idea to your team. Instead of just presenting it, ask, compared to what? Compared to our current plan, to what our competition is doing.
You're right. Compared to what? So simple, but it can change the whole conversation. It's like a secret weapon for thinking clearly and critically.
It is a powerful tool, and it's not just about using it yourself, but helping others see things that way too. When you're trying to persuade someone, you're not just giving them facts, you're shaping how they understand the situation. Compared to what helps you do that well.
This is eye-opening. I'm going to start using compared to what way more often. It's like hitting the reset button in my brain makes me see the bigger picture.
I think you'll be surprised how much it helps you make good choices and be more persuasive. But clarity isn't just about questions. It's also about curating information. It's like sifting through all the data out there and picking out the pieces that are most important.
It's like being a museum curator for information, not art. You're helping people deal with information overload and focus on what really matters.
I like that. Especially these days when we're just bombarded with information from everywhere. You got to be a filter, not a fire hose.
And that's clarity, right? Helping others make sense of things so they can make good decisions and take action.
Now, before we move on from clarity, there's this other story Pink tells that I think our listeners will find interesting. It's about a Mentos executive.
A Mentos executive. Okay, color me intrigued. What does selling Mentos have to do with clarity?
So this guy, his job isn't just selling Mentos. It's helping stores make the most of their entire candy selection. He uses his knowledge of the candy market to advise them on what to stock, how to display it, even how to price it.
So he's not just pushing his product, he's actually helping them do better overall.
Exactly. And get this, he even recommends his competitors' products if he thinks it'll help the store.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. He's basically selling his expertise, his understanding of the whole industry, not just his one product.
It's a great example of clarity in action. He's helping them see their business in a new way, finding problems they might not even know exist, and offering solutions that benefit everyone.
That story definitely challenges the old idea of what a salesperson is. It's not about pushing stuff. It's about understanding needs, solving problems, and making everyone happy.
Yeah, and it brings us back to those three qualities: attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. Pink says these are the foundation for moving people effectively and ethically these days.
This whole deep dive has been so eye-opening for me. I'm seeing the world of selling and just interacting with people in general in a whole new light. But I love that Pink doesn't just give us these big ideas. He also gives us practical advice for actually using them. What are some of the things that stuck with you?
Well, there are so many good nuggets in this book, but one that really hit home for me was this idea of enumerating and embracing rejection.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. I've always struggled with rejection. It feels so personal. But Pink is saying we should. Celebrate it.
Kind of, yeah. He says to keep track of all the no's you get in a week, actually counting them. It might seem weird, but it can be really helpful. First, it shows you that rejection is just part of the game. It's not a personal attack, it's just life, especially in sales.
It takes the sting out of it, right? You see how common it is, and it becomes less scary.
Right. And second, it makes you appreciate the yeses even more. Each one feels like a victory. Pink even says to frame those rejections like Jay Goldberg did. Have you heard of him?
Remind me who he is.
Goldberg was trying to get Major League Baseball teams to sponsor his youth baseball program, but he kept getting rejected. So he framed all those rejection letters and hung them up in his office.
I love that. That's turning a negative into a positive.
It shows that rejection isn't the end. It can be a stepping stone.
Like that quote, our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall.
Well said. And remember, Pink also says to embrace some negativity. It's not about being unrealistically positive. It's about acknowledging those bad feelings, learning from them, and using them to get better.
So it's about a healthy balance, not ignoring negativity, but not letting it rule you either.
Exactly. It's about being flexibly optimistic, realistic, but hopeful. It helps you deal with the ups and downs of life.
Okay, I need to rethink how I view rejection. Maybe I'll start framing those no's like Goldberg. At least it'd be a good conversation starter. What about when you're feeling nervous or unsure before a big pitch or presentation? Does Pink have any tips for dealing with those pre-game jitters?
He suggests the rejection letter exercise.
The rejection letter exercise. Okay, I'm all ears. What is that?
It's pretty simple, actually. Before a big meeting or presentation, sit down and write yourself a rejection letter from the person you're trying to persuade. Put in all the reasons why they might say no, even those annoying phrases like after careful consideration or we had many qualified applicants.
So you're basically preparing yourself for the worst.
Exactly. And by writing it out, you might see weaknesses in your pitch that you can fix. Plus, it helps you get ready for the possibility of a no so it doesn't hit as hard.
It's like taking a deep breath before jumping into cold water.
Hmm.
It's still going to be cold, but you're ready for it.
Right. And if you don't feel like writing it yourself, Pink even has a resource, the Rejection Generator Project. It writes rejection letters for you.
Huh. I love that. So much for staying productive today. Okay, embracing rejection, even preparing for it. Any other practical tips from Pink that stand out?
He talks about finding your own style of persuasion. He says we're all a mix of introvert and extrovert, what he calls ambiverts. And instead of trying to be someone we're not, we should use our natural strengths.
So play to your strengths. If you're more introverted, maybe work on listening skills and building those close relationships. And if you're more extroverted, use that energy to network and get people excited about your ideas.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and being the best, most authentic persuader you can be.
This has been a whirlwind of information. Attunement, buoyancy, clarity, even tackling rejection head on. But there's one last thing I want to talk about, something Pink only touches on briefly. He mentions serving others, even in the context of selling.
That's interesting. What do you mean by that?
Well, it seems like Pink is saying that real persuasion isn't about manipulating people or forcing them to do something. It's about understanding their needs and helping them, even if it means putting their needs before your own, creating situations where everyone wins.
I think you're right. Throughout the book, Pink talks about being authentic, being empathetic, and building real connections. It's not about tricking people. It's about helping them reach their goals.
It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into our final thought-provoking question for our listeners. It builds on this idea of serving others, and it's not something Pink directly answered in his book.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the question? Okay, hit me with that thought-provoking question.
Here it is. How can you use these new approaches to moving others, attunement, buoyancy, and clarity to make a positive impact on the world?
That's a big one. It really makes you think beyond just your own goals and think about how your actions affect everyone.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, to just think about selling as these transactions.
Right.
But what if we saw those interactions as chances to make a real difference?
I love that. What if every time we tried to move someone, it wasn't just about getting what we wanted? What if it was about something bigger?
Think about it. Teachers who inspire their students, entrepreneurs who solve problems and create jobs, activists fighting for change. They're all using these same things. Attunement, buoyancy, clarity to move us towards a better future.
It's like they're not just selling a product or an idea, right? It's more like they're selling a vision of a world they believe in, and they're inviting everyone else to be a part of it.
Exactly. And that's the real power of these qualities. They're not just about you getting ahead. They're about making the world a better place.
So listener, we hope you're feeling inspired. We've taken a deep dive into selling, looking at how it's changed and how you can use these insights to, well, move people effectively and ethically. But now it's your turn. What's the first sale you're going to try, knowing that you can achieve your goals and make a difference in the world?
We want to know what you think. Share your answer with us on social media with the hashtag #DeepDiveImpact.
And that wraps up our deep dive into the surprising truth about selling in the modern world. This has been an incredible journey. I've learned so much.
Me too. And hey, remember you just got sold on the power of selling.
That's true.
But this time, it's a sale we can all feel good about.
Until next time.